Now it is time that we should start our class. So far as stylistics is concerned, we have talked about its history. We have talked about its origin. We have read that from formalism, stylistics came into being. And previously, the focus of attention was the formal properties of language. Now we know that according to new criticism, the words on the page they play a very important role, and those who are teaching or advocating such type of uh, you know things to the students, they were basically the teachers. They were teaching in various universities, and they were asking the students that you should be able to analyze the poem, you should be able to analyze the text which is written on a piece of paper. So this is how stylistics came into being. So we have read the agenda points of stylistics. We have read, you know, uh, that what is the scope of stylistics, what is the significance of stylistics. So, of course, previously we had criticism as well. In criticism, people who were carrying out the analysis of the poem or of the novel, unfortunately, they were unable to express the kind of rules and regulations they manipulated to carry out the analysis. Some of the analyses were wonderful, but they were unable to express in theoretical way that what are the rules and regulations and what are the theoretical frameworks that they have utilized to talk about or to carry out this analysis. That is why in formalism or new criticism, we see that basically they are the text oriented approaches, and the focus is on the text. We have read that there is death of the author and the author has died, and we cannot come to know that what are the objectives of the author. We cannot come to know that what were the agenda points of the author when the author was producing such type of text. That is why it is said that we should focus on the text. Then at that time, even they talked about that readers' own feelings and emotions, they are not important. And reader should not be giving a response to the text, or if he or she feels that this text has affected the reader, so their own feelings and emotions, they should not be there in the text. But this is how they carried out the then these were the things that they were projecting, and they were asking the students, okay, to follow such type of things. And then of course later on they propagated these things, and students they analyze different kinds of poems that these teachers were sharing with them. They were quite small, and students were able to carry out the analysis. So this is what we have talked about in the beginning. We have also talked about, for example, that it depends on the researcher that what are his or her goals, that why he wanted to or why he wants to carry out the stylistic analysis of the poem or of the text. So if your agenda is your aim is to analyze the novel, if your aim is to look at the text, if your aim is to look at the some of the idioms which are there in the particular text, or some of the text produced by the same author, so of course these days people can make a corpus of such type of text, and with the help of corpus tools they can carry out the analysis that how these phrases or these sentences or these particular words they have been used by the author. We have also talked about that if you have got a poem, then of course your focus is on the poem. Then your focus is Poem usually is short, but there are bigger poems as well. So if the poem is short, then individually each and every student, he or she can sit, and if he has got the tools of analysis at his or her disposal, then he or she can easily carry out the analysis. Now, stylistics is the branch of linguistics. And in linguistics, we have read that linguistics is the scientific study of language. So, when we say scientific study of language, it means that we do not believe in intuition. It means that we do not believe that some kind of ideas will enter in our brain, you know, intuitively, and we will be able to carry out the analysis. And sometimes such analyses, they are quite subjective, and science believes in objectivity. So when it is the scientific study of language, it means that we should carry out the analysis in such a way when every person, he or she has got the same kinds of tools, then they should reach the same kind of conclusion. For example, we know that uh, what are the tools that we have got at our disposal. In linguistics, we have got phonetics and phonology, we have got syntax, we have got semantics, we have got morphology, and of course, if we move forward, then we have got pragmatics and discourse analysis. So these are some of the different kinds of theoretical aspects or tools that we can make use of when we are carrying out the analysis. So we have got phonology. It means we are going to deal with the sounds which are there in the piece of text. If you know we are looking at the syntactic structures, so we are looking at the syntax, that how these syntactic structures, they have been produced by the authors. For example, is he or she making use of simple syntactic structures, or complex kind of syntactic structures, or complex and compound, both kinds of syntactic structures? Then what is the role of agency? Who is the agent? How the subject, it is produced in the text? What are the qualities of the subjective nouns or pronouns? What kind of references have been used by the author? For example, we have got anaphoric reference and we have got cataphoric reference, we have got exophoric or homophoric references. Now, homophoric references are those references which exist in the text. Exophoric references are those references which are coming from outside the text. For example, sometimes, references are given, cultural references are given. So, culturally, being Muslims, we know that, for example, zakat, for example, Hajj, if somebody is talking about, so we know that religiously or culturally, what kind of activities these are, and what happens when we are performing such type of events. So this is how exophoric reference can be understood. Then we have got homophoric reference, and in homophoric reference, which is text based reference, there is anaphoric and cataphoric reference. So anaphoric means referring back, and cataphoric means referring forward. For example, sometimes name is given, when you are reading the novel, different names like George, Catherine, for example, they appear in the text. So if he is used in the text later on, and it goes back, it refers to George, then it means that this is an anaphoric reference. And if she is referring back to Catherine, so it means that again it is anaphoric reference. The name of the characters like George or Catherine, they were mentioned in the beginning of the novel, on the very first page of the novel. But sometimes, the authors, they start with pronouns. They make use of he, she, they, but they later on talk about that what is meant by this he or what is meant by this she. So when it happens that the author, he is making use of pronouns it, they, he, she, and later on he or she is introducing those characters. I mean to say their names are given later on, then it is a cataphoric reference. So this is the difference between anaphoric and cataphoric reference. Plus, we have already read that what is meant by exophoric and homophoric references. Exophoric is outside the text and homophoric is inside the text. So we look at the text, that how it is produced by the author, and then what kind of adjectives, for example, the author is making use of, what kind of adjectives are coming as attributes with those nouns, and what they signify. Is the behavior of the author contemptuous or good? Sometimes, some of the adjectives, they give very negative feelings. They produce very negative feelings. They show that somebody is not in good terms with that character, or someone is not having good relationship with that person. Okay, so in my already online lectures, I have already analyzed such type of things. For example, in socio-cognitive approach to critical discourse analysis, in historical approach to critical discourse analysis, in Fairclough's approach, dialectical reasoning to critical approach. Okay, I have talked about all these things. I have already given their references. I have given their examples there. So because I do not want to give the those examples here, you know that our political leaders, what kind of language they make use of when they are calling upon each other. So those adjectives, they show us what is the attitude of the author or of the character towards the other character. Is it positive attitude or negative attitude? Or the adjectives that the people they are making use of, can they be neutral? So, specifically, you are looking at the text. Specifically, you are paying attention to the text, that how text is being produced by the author, that how or what kind of language or what kind of words and morphological, what kind of changes the author is bringing in those words, and then what kind of meanings with the help of those words the author is making use of. So, of course, in the past, in the previous classes, we have read about, you know, introduction to stylistics, some of the historical perspective of stylistics, agenda points of stylistics, and we have covered, the scope of stylistics. That what does the researcher want to do, and accordingly, the researcher will be collecting the data, will be bringing in different tools of analysis from various other subjects like critical discourse analysis or discourse analysis or text analysis, or for example corpus studies, and then or even from ethnography. And this is how he or she is going to carry out the analysis of the text. Then later on we talked about levels of analysis in stylistics. So in levels of analysis we have read that basically there are four levels of analysis: phonological level, semantic level, syntactic level, and morphological level. And I have already given you that when you are doing the analysis at morphological level, you can go for the sounds, whether those sounds are giving or producing any rhyme or not. What kind of meter is used by the author? Is it iambic pentameter or freestyle of writing? Is it, tetrameter or some other kind of meter that the author is making use of? And in novels, for example, is it first person narration, second person narration, or third person narration. Who is the narrator? Who is the narrative? To whom the story is told? What is the plot? What is the story? What are the characters? Who are the characters? Where they are based? Where they are situated? What is their relationship with each other? How they are producing the dialogue? And when we talk about dialogue, it means that we will have to bring the tools of conversation analysis in order to carry out the stylistic analysis. So, in my videos, which I have already uploaded, I have already talked about, pragmatic stylistics, and I have discussed that how conversation analysis and the tools which conversation analysis provides the stylisticians, they can make use of to carry out their analysis. So conversation, it is structured. Conversation, it has got sequence, it has got structure. Conversation, uh, it is carried out between two or more than two people. So we look at the structure, that how people, they are opening their conversation, how they are closing their conversation, how they are taking the turns, how feedback is provided to the other person. And of course, when conversation analysis is there, pragmatics plays a very important role. We need to understand that how pragmatics is going to help us here, because when language is used, there is form and there is function. So form is the words, is the sentences that I am producing or the author has produced, and they are there on the page. They are there in the form of text or discourse. Then, of course, we see that the forms that the author is making use of, what kind of function they are performing. I have already told you that we have got assertive sentences, we have got declarative sentences, we have got uh, expressive sentences, and we have got, in which we give orders, imperative sentences. And sometimes the form is imperative, but we are not giving order. We are still making a request. To Allah Almighty, the creator of this universe, we cannot give any order. Rather, we always request Him. Same is the case in our day to day conversation, in our day to day, you know, talk. Sometimes the sentences are declarative, but they have got question in them. They have got an interrogative element in them. So the job of the stylistician is very, very significant. His role is vital because he or she needs to understand the context in which text is produced, in which, people, they are talking about, what is their culture background, and how they are producing the text, from what perspective they are producing the text, where they are based, where they are situated, what are their belief systems, okay, and then what kind of words they are producing, and the kind of meaning that they are embedding in those words. What is the ideology of those people? How they are embedding those ideological perspectives in the text. So we will have to see all these things. Okay, so we will have to carry out our analysis at syntactic level, at semantic level, where we will have to see whether the author is making use of synonymy, antonymy, meronymy, hyponymy or not, and then what kind of words he or she is making use of, what are the dictionary meaning of those words, and what are the associative meaning of those words. So this we need to understand, that sometimes, Dictionary is telling us different meaning, but the cultural meanings which are attached with those words, what are they and how they have been exploited by the author in the text. So stylistician will have to see that how the author has produced the text. So you will have to see the kind of language which is made use of by the author, the kind of language which is produced in the text. You will have to see that how the author is giving meaning, and is he making use of, associative meanings or cultural meanings or connotative meanings or expressive meanings by using those words or not. So you will have to understand the text. You will have to understand the context. You will have to see who is speaking to whom, what is the status or stature of that person. Because the person who speaks, he has got power. And the people who listen, they are basically on the other side of the spectrum. They are the people, they are the people who are consuming the discourse, and the producers of the discourse, they have got the power. So in the dialogue we will have to see the character who is holding the floor for a longer period of time. It means that that character has got power. It means that that character is holding the floor, is taking more and more time, is speaking more and more, and the other people who are listening to him, or the other characters who are listening to him or her, they are powerless. They are the people, they are basically just consuming the discourse. So the job of the stylistician is not easy. You will have to make decisions. You will have to see that how discourse is produced. Okay. So this is how, the discourse stylistic analysis will be carried out. Then in our later classes, we have talked about, for example, pedagogical stylistics. We have talked about reader response theory. We have talked about affective stylistics. In the beginning, the focus of attention was on the text. In the beginning, the approach of stylistics was text oriented. But later on, the approach of stylistics, it changed. Then, reader response theory entered, and Wolfgang Iser's ideas, okay, they entered the scenario, and people started to read what Wolfgang Iser is saying. People started to read what Stanley Fish is saying, and they are saying when the reader is reading the text, reader is affected by the text. When the reader is reading the text, reader is going to use his or her cognitive abilities so that the analysis of the text should be carried out. This is how affective stylistics or reader response theory came into being. The role of the reader cannot be eliminated. The role of the reader cannot be eliminated. So we need to understand that how the author or how the reader is going to consume the text now, how the reader is affected by the ideas of the text now, how the reader is using cognition, the cognitive abilities to go and is going to reply the text now. All these things are very, very important. So this is how, the reader response theory, it also played a very important role so far as stylistic analysis is concerned. Then we have talked about pedagogical stylistics. In pedagogical stylistics, we have read that we need to see that how teachers, they are going to manipulate the language which is there in the text, and then going to teach language related skills or language items to the students. For example, we can teach, you know uh, uh, we can teach them nouns, we can teach them verbs, we can teach them idioms, we can teach them uh, phrasal verbs which are manipulated or used by the author in the text, or we can teach so many other aspects of the text. So this is what we have talked about today, and this was the revision of your class, that so many things we have talked about today. So we can take a 5 minutes break, and then I can share my uh, link, okay, again with you, and where we can interact with each other, and we can have another session on Google Meet. Okay, so I am going to share the link with the CR again, Noor Bakht, and then she is going to share the link with you, and after 10 minutes we can start our class again. So thank you very much.